You did what to Bloodlands? Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, it's been an eventful couple of days for Diablo 4, and while normally we'd be all over sharing everything with you instantly as it happens, we've taken a bit of a break here on the channel for a couple of days after going insanely hard on this game for over a month now. That said, we are back in action, so let's talk about all the interesting developments, both as far as game updates, as we've had 2 hot fixes, and just in terms of things said by the devs, it has actually been a pretty juicy couple of days as far as new information goes. First up then, we have the first hotfix of 1.04, which was actually a straight out of left field, super unexpected Necromancer nerf, specifically to Bloodlance and the aspect of hungry blood. They have now limited the number of enemies that Bloodlance can pierce and the number of Bloodlances cast with the aspect of hungry blood, and crazily the reason for this is actually game performance. It's not balancing, but performance. Balancing that has been dictated by performance. Apparently this was crashing the game for some players, and instead of fixing that side of it, the actual stability side of things, they decided to just nerf the ability completely into the ground. They didn't buff its damage to compensate it at all, they just straight up nerfed it to the point where it's pretty much not even worth using in comparison to how it was before. They've stated since this that they are going to actively rework the way that the legendary aspect functions, either in Season 1 or shortly after, which implies that it could be even up to 3 months, which is sort of nuts to me, and even then the fix isn't to fix the performance stability of its current function, it's to completely rework the aspect, which is just so weird to me, but I'm not a game developer, I don't know the ins and outs of this kind of thing. It just feels really weird to me to read that though, that this is a game balancing decision dictated by performance that they're going to stick to instead of just fixing the performance of it. Then we've got a gameplay change, which is that the first whisper cache that you acquire on a character will always give you a nightmare sigil. This is a small change but actually really solid for characters first progressing into world tier 3. This way you have guaranteed access to nightmare dungeons as soon as you complete your first Whisper of the Dead's round, and that's where the real experience will be, in the nightmare dungeons, especially after the recent buffs. It may not be important to people right at this exact moment, but this will be a really big deal come Season 1 when people are restarting from the beginning. Past that, there were just, again, further stability improvements. They say this a lot right now. On that note, we should actually talk about the memory leak that the game has. This is the most serious performance issue that Diablo 4 has just in general. It makes it run way poorer than it should for a lot of people and causes a lot of issues even outside of the game itself, making systems just run poorly even after you shut the game down. But Adam Fletcher has specifically said that there is a potential fix to this in the big patch we'll be getting on the 18th, just before Season 1. We don't know for a fact that this will fix the problem, but if it does fix that memory leak, then performance for the game is going to immediately just sort of skyrocket. It will all feel just immeasurably better for so many people, so I have really high hopes that this will actually fix it, even if my expectations are a little bit reserved because they don't seem to be using very sure wording, which is fair enough, honestly. Then we have the second hotfix from the 7th, which was focused around the Uber uniques being disabled the night before. For those who were out of the loop, in 1.04 when that patch hit, they made uniques start dropping from all Helltide chests, not just mystery chests, and there was a bit of an unintended interaction where classes without class-specific unique helmets, which would be Barbarians and Sorcerers, had an abnormally very high chance of getting a Shaco, or Andariel's Visage, from a Helm chest during Helltide. Essentially, these chests just had a flat chance of rolling a unique, and if a Helm chest rolled a unique drop for those 2 classes, it would automatically be one of those 2 uber rare uniques. To put that into perspective, before that night we had confirmation of 2 Harlequins Crest drops just in the entire player base, and 1 Andariel's Visage. That night alone, the devs have confirmed 142 accounts acquired those items. A lot of people that I saw who claimed that they'd gotten 1 had actually said that they got multiple during that time, and a lot of those accounts probably have one of each of those helmets or multiple of one of them. So while it was limited to 142 accounts, that is clearly far more drops than they ever intended of that to happen in only a couple of hours. So they shut them down for a bit, then they brought them back now in this hotfix, and they said that they won't be removing the ones that dropped from the players who got them, which I personally think is probably the right choice. Not only is it only 142 accounts, but come Season 1, in over a week, most players just won't even be spending much time on the Eternal Realm anyways, so it'll be a bit of a moot point when a lot of the player base moves to the Seasonal Realm. Then they have, though, specifically stated that if this does happen again in some way, shape, or form, they are fully willing to take items away from players. So be wary of this. If something like this crops up again in the future, if there's some sort of bug or exploit that's added because of a patch to farm these uber uniques, just know that if you do, you may very well get it taken away, so don't be upset if that happens. Aside from this, the way that they fix this seems a touch rushed to me. What they've done is just give all Helltide chests, every single one of them, a chance of rolling uniques, but not making them slot specific, meaning you can open a helm chest and get a boot slot unique or something like that. And while I can understand how that would fix the issue that we had, it sort of also removes the thing that I most appreciated about uniques being added to these chests, which was the ability to target farm specific ones. Now you cannot target farm any unique. You just open chests and have a random chance at a random unique dropping just like any other source of legendaries in the game. The only way to do it now is with monster families, and that's just not the most consistent thing. A shame, but at least it's not busted right now. I guess at least we can still use these chests and get uniques. That's it as far as proper current game changes go then. So what have the devs been saying the last couple of days? What type of info or hints have we been given about future content? Well, first of all, we have this tweet from Adam Fletcher, who is the Global Community Development Director for all things Diablo, where he clarifies some of the content of both patch 1.1 on the 18th and also season 1 itself. The season will have 32 malignant hearts across the 4 categories, which will not apply to the Eternal Realm in any way. What these are, the devs have said, is basically like bonus legendary powers that you can slot into actual sockets on your rings and your amulet within season 1. The patch that hits on the 18th, however, will include 6 new unique items and 7 legendary aspects, as well as balance updates and changes. The thing here is that actually sort of disappoints me as a number, to be honest. From our brief look at the season journey in the developer update stream, I thought we were getting way more than 7 total legendary aspects. That's actually a pretty low number. We've already seen a couple of these. One of them is Barbarian specific, one of them is Druid specific, so I'd assume that there is also one specific to each of the other classes, and then 2 of them that are likely usable by every class. So basically, each class has 3 new usable legendaries as part of season 1, which is just sort of low to me. As for the uniques, pure speculation here, but it would make sense to me that it would be 1 new unique per class and then 1 non-class specific. It would be weird to add a new class specific one for only 1 or 2 of the classes, and it would be weird to add no new class specific ones either, so it makes sense to me that with 6 new uniques, we probably have 1 for each class and then just 1 that can apply to everyone. That said, 32 Malignant Hearts is actually a reasonable healthy amount, but it entirely depends how wild the effects of these can get. The only one that we've seen so far was pretty tame, but that was just the first one, an early game example, so we'll have to see how they develop as we see more and more of these. I really did think that we were getting more legendaries. I don't think that this will wind up shaking up things as much as I was hoping that it would, unless the balance changes that they do on the 18th are a lot more fundamental and actually mechanically shifting for classes rather than just actual numerical changes. So time will have to tell on that front, but we'll have to see in the patch itself. Past that, there has been conversation back and forth between players and devs about the addition of leaderboards to Diablo 4, as people think it's just weird that they weren't there at launch. And the main response that we've gotten from both Adam Fletcher and also Rod Ferguson is season 3, maybe season 3 likely, and that's really quite nuts to me because season 3 is like 6 months out from now at a minimum. It's a leaderboard system. Again, I'm not a game developer, but for a mechanic that they could have easily predicted people want to get launched, to take 7 months from the launch of the game to add in sounds nuts to me. I'm just saying it better be the best leaderboard I've ever seen because it's a leaderboard. It is a list of names and numbers. I usually try to give the developers the benefit of the doubt on a lot of these things, but that's just a crazy timeline to me on this specific system. Hopefully this is just because they think that there are more pressing, important, and relevant things to add in first, because I do agree that with some of the issues that the game currently has, a leaderboard should not be its highest priority. But just in a vacuum, the statement that they are working on a leaderboard system for 6 months from now is really strange for me to see. Past that, we have something that I consider an extremely interesting thing in Diablo 4, which is the concept of character rebirth. This mechanic was a part of Diablo 3. Essentially, when a season starts, kill off one of your existing characters on the Eternal Realm, send all of their stuff to your other characters, then starts them fresh as a level 1 seasonal character. I can understand from like a roleplay perspective why people might want this, but I have no understanding of it past that. Character creation in this game is pretty simple. There's not that many options. It's not hard to replicate a design that you actually liked that you made. Names are not locked. I have multiple characters named Cotton, so it's not like you are freeing up the name to be used again. You can do that anyways. Even more than that, I simply cannot imagine destroying my level 100 character that I put hundreds of hours of work into just to turn it into a level 1 character that I can make fresh without killing off the other one. That's just nuts to me. Again, from a roleplay perspective, yeah, I get it. It's neat for people who play it that way. That's fair. But from a gameplay perspective, it just makes makes no sense to me in Diablo 4, as this really doesn't provide any actual tangible benefit other than saving you a few minutes of character creation at the expense of possibly hundreds of hours of playtime being thrown away. But all that said, Adam Fletcher said that the team is aware that people would like this, and they are considering it. So maybe by Season 6 at the end of next year. That was a joke in case it wasn't clear. Finally then, we have one more interesting tweet from Adam Fletcher. For the last few weeks, Barbarians specifically have been taking advantage of the Hammer of the Ancients build, which is a weird effect where the shockwave from the aspect of Ancestral Force actually does more damage than the hammer hit itself. So you do more damage if you don't target the enemy that you want to hit with it, which is really odd, but people have been back and forth about whether this is a bug or not. A lot of people arguing it is, a lot of people saying that it's not, and after they accidentally nerfed Hammer of the Ancients in a previous hotfix and then immediately rolled that back saying no nerfs to Hoda, we thought it was pretty strong confirmation that there's no bug there and they liked it this way. But now we've got this tweet stating that the team is actually still looking into whether this is a bug or not, which means they somehow don't know if this is intended. At least that's what it implies, and this has been a thing for weeks, mind you, so they've been looking into it. What I have to imagine this means, though, is no, it's not intended. Straight up, it isn't. They did not make this with the intentions of it working this way. Not the way that they wanted it to work, but they sort of like that it does. I don't think it's that they don't know whether it was meant to work that way or not. I think what's going on is they are having deliberations about whether the fact that it does work this way is a good or bad thing for the game as a whole. What their decision will be, I can't predict, but I find the situation quite interesting, and if my speculations about it are correct, it has really interesting implications for the rest of the game too in the future, because it means if they happen to create any accidental interactions that aren't totally game-breaking, they might keep them around, just because they're neat, or because they actually balance something into being relevant in a way that they didn't even expect to, which is a type of flexibility you do not often get from game developers working on a live service game, and I actually respect that concept quite a bit if that is the case, if that is what's happening. That's it for today then, everyone. Now that we're back on track and off of our short break, anytime real news drops, we will of course be right on it and talking about it with you all, so keep your eyes peeled and your ears spread. I don't know what to do with your ears. Just do something, okay? I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown of the last couple of days of happenings in Diablo 4 world, and hopefully we'll have even more good things to talk about sooner rather than later. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.